All right, here's the next two homework quizzes. Chapter 6.3 deals with square root functions, graphing them, finding their domain and range. The first problem says, mostly these are just a bunch of word problems with an equation there, and they want you to do something with the equation. So don't get intimidated by them. Read them, but know that's usually what the meaning is in the math problems. It says the speed of a tsunami or a tidal wave can travel as modeled by this equation. I don't know if that's true or not, but probably somewhat close. It says where v is the velocity, the speed, and d is the distance, okay, or the average, or not distance, I'm sorry, depth of the average depth of the water in kilometers. A tsunami is found to be traveling at 145 kilometers per hour. So I'm going to replace traveling, and that's the speed. It's how fast it's going. So replace v with 145. And it says, what is the average depth of the water? So you're trying to find d. So we have to remove this 356, which I did. It's not going to be very pretty, so I'm leaving it as a fraction. So divide both sides, and then we have to get rid of the square root. So the inverse of square rooting is squaring. So d is equal to 0.17 kilometers. It said round to the nearest hundredth. Pay attention to the directions, because a lot of people, when they did this homework quiz in class in previous semesters, they didn't do that, and they got it wrong. The next one asks to identify the domain and range. So if you look at a, so you can focus on this. If you look at a root function, when you're talking about domain, you just care about what's under the square root, because you can't take the square root of a negative. So you have to say, all right, x minus 2 has to be 0 or greater. Therefore, 2 is your domain, 2 and greater. So if I put in 2, I get 0. If I put in 3, I get 1. We're good. If I put something less than 2 in, like 1 minus 2 is -1, and that's not going to work. So this is your domain. Your back of the book might have it written like this. It's saying x, given that, it's just saying x is an element, and it's given that x is greater than or equal to 2. Do you have to write it like this? No. I've never seen it written like this any other place but our textbook. And then the range, you simply put 2 in. 2 minus 2 is 0. The square root of 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. Minus 8 is -8. So your y value is -8. And then here, how do you graph it? By using the domain and range. So off to the side, x plus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0. So that is your domain. When you put it in, you get 0. Then you keep picking numbers greater. So I'm starting at -3. Then I put in -2. I skipped -1. Why? Because if I put in -1, I get the square root of 2. You can use it, but it's not very pretty, so I just chose not to use it. If I put in 0, I get the square root of 3. Not very pretty. So let's move on and put 1 in. Yeah, the square root of 4 is nice. We get 2 times -4. And then I skipped a bunch of numbers. I knew 6. If I put 6 in, 6 plus 3 is 9. So just try some numbers. And I went till I couldn't go anymore. You're greater than or equal to. So it's a solid line, and they want you to shade above. So I'd see a lot of kids go like this on quizzes, and they think they're done. Can you go above here? Well, try it. So if I pick like this coordinate 2, 1, will it work? I mean, it would just make sense to keep going, but 2, 1. So if I put 2 in for x, and I put 1 in for y, is this true? Yeah, it's going to be a negative number, which is going to be less than 1. So yeah, you can do that. You just can't go past this way. Okay, so that would be your answer. If you left that blank, it'd be wrong. So that is 6.3. Let's do 6.4. Okay. When you take roots other than square roots, like a 6th root, you need 6 of one number or variable. So if I take 64, which I know is 8 times 8, or 222, that's 6 of them. I take out a group of 6, so my answer is 2. And then I would have 18 of these groups. So if I had 18 of these groups written out, and I need 6 to create one group, how many groups of 6 are there with 18, or 18 divided by 6? would be, there would be 3 of these. I would have a group of 6, a group of 6, and a group of 6. So it'd be 3 of them. So that's your answer. 23, same thing, we need a group of 3. So 27 is 3, 3, 3. That's a group of 3. So my answer is 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4. That's this answer. And then here, 16 divided by 8 is 2. 8 divided by 8 is 1. However, there's one more thing we need to address. This would be, if this was your answer, I'd take it. I kind of make this part optional, and I'm probably going to make it optional here just for the fact of our current situation. The actual answer for this is this. And I only put it around y and nothing else because I'm going to tell you with an example here. If I have x and I square it, and then I take the square root, what do you get? And everyone would say, oh, well, they undo each other, you get x. Wrong, you'd get the absolute value of x. So if I take -2 and I square it, 4, and then I take the square root of 4, I get 2. So I put in a negative number and a positive one came out. So if you put in a positive x, you'll get a positive x, but if you put in a negative x, you'll still get a positive x. So this works for square roots. This works for 4th roots. If I have a cube root, your answer is going to be -3. So it'd be wrong to put absolute values, value bars around it. So it only works for when you have an even index, and then when your answer is to an odd power. So here, if I took the 8th root, I get x squared. Some people do this. Is it wrong? No, but a negative number being squared is already positive. You wouldn't need to write that. If you're like, what are you saying? Then just kind of ignore what I said, okay? But this is technically the correct answer versus this. Now, the funny thing is in the next section, they totally dismiss this. It just depends on the wording of the directions in the textbook. So you can put it, you don't have to. I don't care either way. But you will see this as you get into pre-calc and calc. So just be mindful of it, okay? All right, those are the last 2, and then I'm going to make another video on 6.5 and 6.7.